Welcome back to Steel City Sports. So today I'm going to be predicting every game in the NFL for Week 7. So if you didn't see my videos last week, I went 13-1. By far my best week of the season, so definitely going to be trying to recreate that this week. So let's get into the slate of games. So we don't get a good game down the list here till like the 6th game. There's a lot of really bad games this week, particularly the morning slate on Sunday is just atrocious. So I'm going to try to roll through these pretty quick. Starting off tonight, Thursday Night Football, we have a real stinker between the Broncos and the Saints. A matchup between Bo Nix and Spencer Rattler. I don't know how much I'm going to be watching this one. I mean, it's probably going to be on in the background, but this is just a matchup of two bad teams, in my opinion. Really, the only storyline you got going here is like Sean Payton's return, but outside of that, there's really not a whole lot to this game. I'm rolling with the Broncos here just for the simple fact that even though I have my problems with Bo Nix and Sean Payton, they're better than Dennis Allen and Spencer Rattler. So I'm going with the Broncos in that one. Not excited for tonight's matchup. This kind of gets back to the trend of the Amazon games being really bad. You know, in 2023, we didn't have not one good Amazon Prime game last year. This year, I feel like we've been kind of spoiled because we've actually had some pretty nice Thursday night matchups. You know, you think of that Bucks-Falcons game. Even that Cowboys-Giants game was decent. We had that Niners-Seahawks game last week. So this gets us kind of back on track with the Amazon games being complete dog shit. So like I said, I'll take the Broncos by a smidge here. So continuing the trend of bad games, we go to the Sunday slate. In London, we have Patriots at Jags. Well, not at because it's in London, but I guess the Jags are kind of home. This is their home away from home. This is the third straight week in London. It's back-to-back weeks in London for the Jags. I'm rolling with the Jaguars here for the simple fact that even though Trevor Lawrence has been disappointing, he's better than Drake May. Maybe he's not, because Drake May had an awesome debut. He threw 3 touchdowns. He kind of gave the Patriots offense a pulse. It just so happened they were playing a top 5 team. I would argue a top 3 team in the NFL in the Houston Texans last week. So the 3 touchdowns didn't really matter because they got bludgeoned. But Drake May at least gives the offense like a hope and a prayer, but I still just think the overall roster around him is so pitiful that it's going to be really difficult for him to win games. And the Jags, even though they lost big to the Bears, I don't know why. I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. I still, for some reason, kind of think they're better than what their record says. Because, last year they did start off 8-3. And now they have the emergence of Brian Thomas Jr., who's actually, statistically one of the best receivers in the NFL this season. So I still think the Jags are better than a 1-5 team. I really do believe that. It's just we need to – I think that they've dug themselves far too deep of a hole to really make this season matter. I don't know what to do with this team. I'm picking them because, like I said, I trust Trevor Lawrence more than Drake May. Maybe that'll end up being a stupid thing because he has been really bad or really disappointing this year. Next up, we have Titans at Bills. Another bad game. This should be an absolute slaughtering. This should be a bloodbath. When, we look back to the Bills of years prior, their MO was kind of similar to the regular season Cowboys. I'm not talking about postseason. I'm talking about regular season over the past 5 years. The Bills and the Cowboys were kind of similar in one thing, is they just beat the shit out of bad teams. Not every team does that. For my Steelers, for example, we usually play down the competition. We lose a lot of stupid games. That's not the case with the Bills or the Cowboys in years prior. They usually come out and just crush bad teams. So I want to see the Bills kind of get back on track with doing that because they didn't really do that as much last year. They were still winning. They still won 11 games last year, but they didn't look quite as dominant. I think that they can do that here against Tennessee. I don't know if Will Levis is starting. If Will Levis plays, you're guaranteed to lose the game because every game Will Levis has played this year where he played the whole game, they've lost. The only game they won this year is when they benched him for Mason Rudolph against the Miami Dolphins. That's it. So if Will Levis plays, you're guaranteed to lose the game, particularly against a Super Bowl contender with Josh Allen. This is probably going to be Amari Cooper's first game. That would be my guess. I don't know why I know he's only been a Bill for a couple days, but I'd still throw him out there. He's still an incredible player. So this should be an absolute slaughtering, and we're going to, I think, see the Bills kind of get back to their regular season dominance, after they snapped their 2-game losing streak last week against the Jets on Monday Night Football. I think they're just going to slaughter the Titans at home. Next, we have Dolphins at Colts, another shitty game. I'm going with the Colts here just for the simple fact that the Dolphins' offense with Huntley or Thompson is just pathetic. It's really just dreadfully embarrassing how bad that offense has been without Tua. And people want to talk about how overrated Tua is and how he didn't deserve the contract. Look at the team without him, So I think I've always been more of a Tua supporter than more of your average fan. Tua seems to be one of those guys who gets hated on a lot, but I think he's really, this kind of showcases Tua's value right now because everyone says, oh, he has all these great weapons. Any quarterback could succeed. People say the same thing about Brock Purdy as well. And I just think that that's a really, boneheaded, basic take. I don't think you really pay attention to the NFL if you say that about the Shanahan-style offense because we've seen other quarterbacks in Shanahan-style offense, which Mike McDaniel's running in Miami. Trey Lance was a fucking disaster. I thought anyone could just succeed in there. Skylar Thompson, Huntley. If anyone can succeed in this style of offense, then I think your theory is kind of wrong because we've seen other guys in it and they sucked. So Brock Purdy and Tua, it's not like they're my favorite players or anything, but I think that, this kind of justifies you do need the right guy running this style of offense because at the end of the day, these guys are just an embarrassment. With Thompson and Huntley, whoever one of them starts, I'm rolling with the Colts here. The Colts kind of have some of their own problems. They do have some injuries. But I think Joe Flacco honestly does give them a better shot of winning, at least in 2024. So I'm rolling with the Colts here. Next up, finally, we have a good game. Lions at Vikings. This is a massive, massive game. NFC North matchup. I think this is finally going to be the game where the Vikings finally lose their first game of the season. They're 5-0 right now. It's got to happen eventually. We all know, obviously, they're not going to go undefeated. So for me, I think it's going to be the Lions. I think the Lions are just simply a better football team. This is going to be obviously in a dome because it's in Minnesota. We know Jared Goff, as long as he's in a dome, plays very well. So I think Jared Goff, even though Sam Darnold is having a good storyline, he's having good statistics. I think he's definitely in the MVP conversation just for what he's done on the field. But just in a vacuum, player for player, I think Jared Goff is still a significantly better player than Sam Darnold. I still trust Jared Goff a lot more than I trust Sam Darnold. And like I said, I just think it's a better overall roster. It's going to be a really good matchup, though. This is a really well-matched up team. You have two really good coaching staffs. You have two well-rounded teams. So that's one definitely I want to watch. I'm going with the Lions, though. Like I said, they have the better team in my eyes. They have the better quarterback. Next up, we have Bengals at Browns. Give me the Bengals in this one. If you watched my video yesterday, my podcast where I ranked every NFL team, I had the Browns at 32, dead last, because they have the worst player in the NFL as their starting quarterback. That is a complete, total losing recipe. And the Bengals, they're a lot better than what their record says at 2-4. Joe Burrow's playing at an MVP level. They should definitely win that game. Although the Browns have always kind of given the Bengals trouble in the Joe Burrow era. I don't know if it's he's never won a game against the Browns in the Joe Burrow era, but I don't know. There's something weird about that. Look up Joe Burrow's record against the Browns. It's pretty terrible. But Deshaun is so bad that I don't really give a shit about that. Give me the Bengals to win that one. Next up, we have a pretty good matchup between the Texans and the Packers. Potential Super Bowl matchup? No, I don't think so. But a really good matchup. Jordan Love finally had his big bounce-back game. I think he finally got back on track to what we saw last year. He was really good against the Arizona Cardinals. I think he's really going to start putting it together like he was at the end of last season. That being said, I'm rolling with the Houston Texans here. I know that they are underdogs going up to Lambeau, but I like their team better. I like their quarterback better. It's going to be a really good one. This is similar to what I said about the Lions versus the Vikings one. This is a really good matchup between rosters and coaching staffs. You have one of the best offensive minds in the NFL and Matt LaFleur, the Packers coach, versus the Texans head coach, one of the best defensive minds in DeMeco Ryans. So this is a really fascinating matchup. I'm rolling with the Texans here. I just think they're a better team. And even though I think Jordan Love's going to get back on track, there's no guarantee for that. Like, 2 out of the 3 games Jordan Love has played this year, he was bad. He was objectively bad in the Eagles game. And who did they play week 2? I can't remember. But, so yeah, that's a tough one, but like I said, I'm rolling with Houston here. I just trust CJ more than I trust Jordan Love. I think they have a better overall roster. Despite Nico getting hurt, they still got Stephon Diggs. They still got Tank Dell. Joe Mixon's back. Moving on, though, we go to Battle of the Birds, Seahawks versus Falcons in Atlanta. I'm going with the Atlanta Falcons in this one. Number one, I just think they're a better overall team right now. And I can't trust Seattle, because I was really, really high on them because of Geno. But Geno is such a roller coaster at the quarterback position because he was the reason why they were 3-0 to start off the year. He was really good. And even in a couple of their losses, he was pretty good, in particular the Detroit game. But the game against the Niners really kind of revealed who Geno is, and it kind of told me that the offensive coordinator, at least right now, I don't think he's that bright in Ryan Grubb. Like, I don't know what exactly that game plan was for that Niners game. Having Geno Smith throw the ball 50-plus times is completely unacceptable, particularly when you have 2 really good running backs. So, it's going to take time to adjust. He just got in the NFL. I'm talking about their coordinator. He was the offensive coordinator at Washington last year that went to the Natty. But this is his first year calling an NFL offense, so it's going to take time for him to adjust. I don't like the over-reliance on Geno right now. So I don't really know what the Seahawks' identity is right now because they have a defensive-minded head coach. Their defense is bad, really. I mean, sorry. Their defense is pretty bad. You can't really, blame him for that because their D-line has been really bad, but it's like, if you're a defensive coach, I expect the defense to be really good. You don't even really have that going for you. And then the offense is kind of a toss-up. You don't know what you're getting from a game-to-game basis, or how are we using Geno? I don't know. They feel like right now they're just kind of scrambling. I think they're going to figure it out. I do have faith in Mike McDonald, and like I said, they do have a lot of injuries to their defensive line, but for right now, there's just so many question marks for me about this team. Excuse me. Jesus. Okay. But yeah, so the reason why I'm taking Atlanta, I just trust them more. Right now, Kirk Cousins has been more consistent than Geno Smith. One of the games of the year was against Tampa. He threw for over 500 yards in that game. And I just think he's running this Atlanta Falcons offense perfectly. You could not ask him to run this better. The way it's very much so a spread offense. He's moving the ball around to all their different playmakers. It's not just Drake May. He's using everyone on the team. So I like to see that. Their defense is pretty good. Give me the Falcons. Next up, we have the Eagles at Giants. So, of course, this is an NFC East matchup. I guess I'm taking the Eagles. The Eagles continue to be one of the most frustrating teams in the NFL for me because on paper they have a Pro Bowl roster. They should be literally crushing teams. Going into this year, I thought they were going to kind of get back to what they were in 2022, where they were just crushing people. What were they that year? That was the year they went to the Super Bowl, but what was their regular season record? I think they won 14 games. I was expecting more so of that for the Eagles. I had very high expectations for them. I picked them to be the 1 seed in the NFC. And now, there's no guarantee they're even a playoff team. There's just so much I could say about the Eagles right now. Jalen has been disappointing. They've had really big injuries. Their coach is going through a mental health crisis right now. So, I don't know. I'm going with them because I still like their roster, but I don't feel great about it. The Giants have been pretty scrappy this year. Daniel Jones has been all right. I'm going with the Eagles, but I don't love it. They almost blew a game to the Browns at home as 10-point favorites. So if they lose here, it's going to get really weird quick. And I've been saying this. I think the Eagles are just a powder keg waiting for someone to drop that match in there for them to just basically self-implode. Because anytime you have someone so unstable at the helm of your organization like Nick Sirianni, it's guaranteed to be weird. It's guaranteed to be just chaotic. So, I really do think if they would have lost to the Browns, they would have fired Sirianni. So part of me kind of wishes they would have lost to the Browns so we wouldn't have to talk about this psycho anymore. But yeah, I'm going with the Eagles in that one. Definitely one to monitor. If they lose that game, that's a big deal. And it is, of course, Saquon's return to MetLife, so we're going to have to see how the Giants fans react to Saquon, if they're going to boo him, if they're going to give him a tribute. I don't know. Next up is Panthers at Commanders. This should be a total bloodbath by the Commanders. They almost beat the Ravens. They covered the spread last week against Baltimore. Jane Daniels, for me right now, is a legit MVP candidate. I think he's I would put him probably like second or third right now. I'd have to sit down and write out the list, but Jane Daniels has been absolutely electrifying. He's throwing 75% on his passes for efficiency. If you would have said that a couple years ago, just go back to 2016 and say, oh yeah, there's going to be a rookie who for 6-7 weeks of the season throws for 75%. People would have fucking laughed at you and said you're a moron. This is unheard of in the history of the NFL, a player playing this well, and he's a rookie. Jane Daniels is sensational. So, and the Panthers, like I said, if you listen to my podcast yesterday where I ranked every NFL team, the Panthers were at 31. So that kind of shows you what I believe about the Panthers. They're terrible. Give me Washington. Next up, we have Raiders at Rams. Obviously, they just traded away Devontae. I'm going with the Rams in this one. Even though the Rams have their injuries still, I don't really care. It's Matt Stafford, and Cooper Kupp could potentially be back for this game. He hasn't been it hasn't been confirmed, but there is still a chance Cooper Kupp will play in this game against the Raiders. And I just think the Raiders are the Raiders. They're exactly what they've been the past couple of years, just a dysfunctional mess, very poorly ran. I don't think Antonio Pierce really knows what the fuck he's doing. I never really understood that hire. We've talked about that time after time. And if you want more on that, like I said, you should really listen to that video I put out yesterday where I ranked every NFL team because I kind of did a deep dive on each team. So if you want to hear more about the Raiders, you don't have to wait long in that video to get to the Raiders. So, yeah, give me the Rams there, even with their injuries. I don't care. It's McVay and Stafford versus O'Connell and Pierce. It's very, very simple. Next up, we have our Super Bowl rematch from last year, our thumbnail of this week. The 49ers hosting the Kansas City Chiefs. The Niners are favored in this one. So this is the first time in the NFL season where you can get plus money on the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't know. I've said this. If you've listened to my week-by-week predictions, I've said I don't really see me picking against the Chiefs this year, no matter who they play, and I'm just going to keep rolling with that. I know, guys, on paper, the Chiefs should not be a 5-0 team. When you look at, what's going on with all their injuries, Isaiah Pacheco was their second most important offensive player before he got hurt. His knee blew up. He's gone. Rashee Rice, by far their best receiver, and emerging, I think, as a top 10 receiver. He was incredible against Atlanta. His leg blew up. He's gone for the year. So those are two insurmountable injuries. If you just take almost any other team in the NFL right now and hurt their top running back and their top receiver, they're probably going to collapse. If not collapse, then they're going to really miss a beat and lose some games. If you just look at Baltimore. If you took out Derrick Henry and Zay Flowers, do you think that they have the record they have right now? I don't know. I doubt it. So the Chiefs just, this is the voodoo magic of Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. On paper, I still just think that the Niners have a better roster, but how the hell can I pick against the Chiefs? After what happened with the Super Bowl, after them having their injuries and still being 5-0, and Mahomes isn't even playing that good. Statistically, Mahomes is not having a good season whatsoever. This is the slowest start Mahomes has ever gotten off to in his entire football career in the NFL. But I can't pick against them. I can't. The logic would really say, if you're just looking at this in a vacuum, the logic would say to pick the Niners. They're at home. They're more healthy. I still believe that they have a better on-paper roster than the Chiefs, but how can you pick against the Chiefs? I can't, so I'm rolling with them. And I might even bet some money on that because, like I said, this is plus money on the Chiefs. It's kind of hard to pass that up. Next up, the big Sunday night game, Jets at Steelers. So a couple weeks ago, we just hosted the Cowboys in Sunday night. Hopefully we don't have a fucking weather delay like we did last week. Or not last week, it was 2 weeks ago when we hosted the Cowboys. That game sucked. And it started at like 11 p.m. Eastern. So that was kind of weird. Hopefully, like I said, that doesn't happen again this time. So this is a big one for sure because it's going to be the debut of Davante Adams with the New York Jets. And if you listen to my reaction to the trade, I said, yeah, it's definitely a good trade. It's going to improve their offense. I don't think it's overall going to change much in terms of like them as a playoff team. I don't think it moves the needle a whole lot because they still have a lot of issues on the team. But their offense should look more potent for sure. I really wish that this trade would have happened next week so we didn't have to worry about Davante. Because him and Garrett Wilson, that is a lethal combination. I think at the receiver position, that's really quickly going to become one of the best duos in the league. And I think it's really going to kind of open up the offense for Breece Hall because their offense was very predictable. It was either going to one of two guys, Garrett Wilson or Breece Hall. Obviously, Lazard here and there as well. But they knew they had to neutralize Garrett Wilson. Teams with really good corners were able to do that like Denver did with Patrick Surtain. And then they just kind of stacked the box on Breece Hall. He hasn't really done anything this season. He hasn't really had any good games this year. I think that Davante will really open up their offense for sure. They'll look better. They're going to have obviously him and Aaron will have an instant connection. But I'm going with my Steelers here. It's not logical for sure because I'm so exhausted with the conversation surrounding are they going to start Fields or Russ? Like for me, it's completely idiotic to bench Justin Fields right now. I'm not saying Justin Fields is playing at an MVP level or he's like a superstar or anything. He has 10 total touchdowns and 1 interception. That 1 interception was tipped too, so it wasn't even really his fault. He single-handedly won us games with his legs. You know, he had 2 rushing TDs against the Raiders. They're 4-2. Like, why the fuck would now be the time to bench Justin Fields? I'm fully on board if they were 2-4 right now. The offense was looking shitty. But we just put up 32 points. I know it's the Raiders, but 32 points is 32 points. And Justin Fields is the reason why. And I don't get it with Russ. I don't get it. You know, I'm someone who wanted Russ to start off the season, but we have new data. You know, we're in week 7. We know that the Steelers are 4-2 with Justin Fields. What's the logic behind benching him right now? And I was watching Orlovsky on ESPN, you know, I think it was yesterday, and he had a really good point. He was like, if you're Mike Tomlin, your team's 4-2, you decide to bench Fields for Russ. You go out there on Sunday Night Football in prime time with 50 million people watching the game, and you lose that game to the Jets at home. How can you face the locker room? Like, you're just going to look like the biggest fucking moron on the planet if you start off 4-2, bench your quarterback, and then lose a big primetime game. You're just going to look like an idiot, and there's no reason for it. So if we do get the official news before the game starts on if Russ is starting that game, I will come on here and go on a full-blown rant. But I don't know. It's up in the air right now. I'm rolling with the Steelers just because, you know, it's my team. Even though Davante, you know, it's exciting for the Jets, it doesn't really change a lot of the structural issues I have with the Jets. Their O-line's really bad. That should be really good for TJ Watt to feast. Their defense, I think, is pretty overrated. Aaron, kind of mediocre at best this year. It's not like Aaron's been lighting it up either. Their coaching staff, to me, kind of feels like a mess as well with interims at both head coach and offensive coordinator. So it might not be the most logical pick, but I'm going to roll with my Steelers here. And I know I've picked my Steelers in every week, but trust me, after the bye, there will be weeks where I do start picking against my Steelers. Monday Night Football, we have a doubleheader. First one, the better one, of course, is Ravens at Bucks. Give me the Ravens in this one. This was a tough one. I definitely had to think about this one. I think this is a really, really good matchup between 2 playoff teams. But ultimately, I just trust the Ravens more now that they've really integrated Derrick Henry into this offense. He's leading the league in rushing yards. Lamar Jackson's playing at an MVP level. Zay Flowers just had a great game. So I got to roll with the Ravens in this one, but it wasn't easy, you know. That's definitely a fun one. That should be its own game on Monday Night Football. There should be no doubleheader because the other one sucks. Chargers at Cardinals. No one's going to watch that game with Ravens Bucks on at the same time. I'm rolling with the Chargers in that one. I'm kind of out on the Cardinals. If you listen to me like early on in the season, you know that I was pretty high on the Cardinals, but they're just too inconsistent for me to keep defending. I can't keep doing it with Arizona. They're too much of an emotional roller coaster, and the Chargers, they're 3-2. Give me them. So that's been all my picks for Week 7. Like I said, so my cumulative record going into this week is 61-38. So we definitely want to get more wins. So let me know down in the comments some of your favorite picks for this week. Let me know if you're betting any of these games. Definitely would love to hear that. Like I said, I'm considering putting some money on the Chiefs against the Niners, but we will see about that. If you made it this far in the video, really appreciate you listening. Please like and subscribe.